Gu Shijio watched Long Sai fishing to kill her boredom. Lush trees shaded the lake, and the air was full of grass and wooden scents. Long Sai occasionally looked at her while he caught fishes for her meal. She seemed to be playing with stones all the while. Gu Shijio threw a dozen stones in her hand into the pond. The pebbles were colorful and formed numerous bright arcs in her hands under the sunlight. It was a lovely scene to see. Long Sai's heart moved. He seemed to have experienced the same situation before. He blurted out, "Shijio, have we ever been like this?" The remaining stones in Gu Zijia's hands fell. She smiled and said, "Sometimes, you may feel a sense of familiarity with certain situations. In fact, it is just an illusion." She looked up into his bucket and said, "Wow, you have caught 3 fishes. I can go and cook them now. You don't have to fish anymore. It will be a waste." Was it just an illusion? Long Sai was disappointed by the answer he received. He then went to prepare the fishes for cooking. The two were on the edge of the lake. Gu Shijio squatted there, watching him work. His kind gesture touched her. After all, she did get along with Long Sai like this in the modern world. Long Sai did remember it correctly. What about herself? When she was together with Shenyanma, she often had the feeling of déjà vu, especially when they were in the wooden tubs. She had a similar strong feeling. Had she experienced the same thing with Shenyanma before? Was Shenyanma the reincarnation of Huang Tu? She was shocked by her thoughts and simultaneously dropped the pebbles in her hand. They swayed in circles while sinking, just like her heart. Could it be possible? Huang Tu had passed away for hundreds of years, while Shenyanma was still so young. Furthermore, according to the mysterious voice in her brain, Shenyanma was the reincarnation of the master of the heavenly law. Was it impossible for Huang Tu to be the reincarnation of the master of heavenly law as well? As far as she was aware, Huang Tu was once the lord of the lower bound, and his demise was also the fate of his life. If he was the master of heavenly law, he could easily change his fate, right? If he did not want to die with the ability of the master of heavenly law, it should easily be reversed. In the illusions, she could see that he loved her very much. If he loved her so deeply, how could he bear to leave her alone? Therefore, Huang Tu should not be the master of heavenly law. Gu Shijio was startled for a moment as Long Sai stared at her and handed her a fish. "Come and deal with this fish. You are quite good at grilling fish. Why don't you try to do one?" Gu Shijio took the fish and handled it. Her technique was excellent and straightforward. It seemed like she always did it in the past. Long Sai looked at her, and his heart moved again. He dreamed of this before. He dreamed that she cooked him a grilled fish, and the technique was exactly the same. What was the relationship between them before he ascended? Long Sai generally was distant from other people. However, he could not let her go. Every time he thought about her, his heart was flustered. The way she treated him was not like a superior to speaking to her subordinates but more like friends. He took a deep breath and seemed to make a decision. He then told her jokes until she laughed happily. Her smile was adorable. Her eyebrows were perfectly curved. As soon as he lifted his hand, a small fish scale flew to her forehead. She seemed to be a bit startled and did not pay attention to it. Long Sai stepped forward, and his fingers suddenly wiped the scale off her forehead. Gu Shijio involuntarily moved her head away, and his fingertips had touched her eyebrows. Everything happened very promptly, and Gu Zijia was not aware of the numbness of her feet. Since her body was still weak, she almost fell backward. Long Sai subconsciously stretched his sleeves and caught her in his embrace. A warm and soft body was in his arms, and Long Sai's heart suddenly swayed. On the other hand, Gu Shijio was still stunned. She asked, "What's wrong?" Long Sai stuttered, You have a fish scale on your forehead? I wanted to wipe it off for you." Gu Shijio was speechless. "Do you have fish scales on your hand too? Wouldn't that just make it worse?" When she about to support herself up again, there was a light sound heard from not far away. It seemed like someone had stepped on a few branches with brute force. Gu Shijio and Long Sai turned their heads and saw a person standing at the big tree in the distance. He was in a purple robe and looked like a purple orchid tree from afar. This person wore a butterfly mask on his face, and it shone under the sunlight. It was Di Fui. He actually came back so soon. Beside him was a beast with white wings. It looked like a hybrid between a horse and a lion. It had the mane of a white lion and a tail with a flame-shaped tip at the end. There was a pair of horns on its head, and it had a pair of deep blue eyes looking down as if it could see through everything. Di Fui stared at the two people who were still holding each other. "What are both of you doing?" His aura was powerful. Long Sai was nervous and felt inexplicably guilty. He put Gu Shijio down and explained. "Shijio could eat meat today, so I was fishing and got her to grill the fish." After explaining himself, he felt a bit strange. Why would he have to explain himself to this boy? Di Fui took a leap and landed near to the two. He looked at the pot, seasoning, and the bonfire on the ground, and then looked at Gu Shijio. "Seems like you are recovering well. You even have the energy to have a wild party over here." He looked at her as if he was smiling, but there was no smile in his eyes. Apparently, the scene in front of him made him very uncomfortable. When she saw him, she was inexplicably relieved and happy in her heart. However, when she saw his current expression, why would she have the feeling that he was a husband who caught his derailed wife red-handed? Gu Shijio remembered the words he said to her when he was healing her. It seemed like really treated her as his fiancée. She frowned slightly and wanted to say something, but she noticed that Di Fui looked very pale. He was supposed to only come back after 5 or 6 days, but he returned in about half the time. Apparently, he pushed his speed to the extreme, and he did not rest at all. She was very touched, so she did not care much about his strange tone. She stood up and waved at him. "Fui, come down. Do you want to eat fish?" Di Fui's expression changed a little. He looked less serious. He jumped down and said, "Yes, I am starving." Not sure if it was intentional or not, but he sat right in between Gu Shijio and Long Sai, which made Long Sai have to move back a little. Long Sai frowned, but before he could say anything, Di Fui's gaze fell on him. "General Long, since you are so interested in cooking today, please do something for me." Although Long Sai was unhappy with the request, he could not refuse it. He faintly replied, "Your Highness has been eagerly looking for the cure for Shijio. Naturally, I need to repay you with something." He picked up the fishing rod and went fishing again. Since they had one more person to feed, 3 fishes were obviously not enough. Di Fui laughed. "General Long is really generous." He waved at the snow-white mythological beast which was standing there. "Bai Zhe, come over, you have been good today. Come down and eat together with me." Therefore, the snow-white mythological beast leaped over, turned into a human form, and sat opposite Long Sai. "Thank you, General Long. I like to eat grilled fish. Can you grill more for me?" Bai Zhe's human form was a handsome general in white robes. It looked heroic and elegant. However, there was also a strong aura from him that could not be ignored. Long Sai naturally knew that about the mythological beast, Bai Zhe. It was the head of the 8 ancient mythological beasts from ancient time. Its status was even higher than the Emperor Immortal. Ordinary celestial beings would need to worship it when they saw it. Even Long Sai needed to pay respect to it. On the current continent, the only person who would dare to take Bai Zhe as its ride was the son of the Divine Lord, Shenyanma. When the divine couple left the continent, they left the 8 mythological beasts to their son. The beasts usually stayed in the palace of the Divine Lord and would only be called out by Di Fui when necessary. This time, to get the medicine back to Gu Shijio, he actually summoned Bai Zhe. Nonetheless, Nianma was still exhausted. Although he did not show it, his slightly pale lips still exposed his exhaustion. He was sitting next to Gu Shijio and was quite close. She could smell a faint aroma from his body. This fragrance made her heart float, and she felt inexplicable clingy to him. "Why is your face so pale? Are you feeling uncomfortable?" When her soft fingers rested on his wrist, the anger in Di Fui's heart suddenly disappeared. He closed his eyes slightly and asked, "What do you think?" In the past 3 days he rode 10,000 miles on Bai Zhe and did not sleep. Even the mighty Bai Zhe was tired, so Shen Yanma was naturally exhausted too. Before seeking out the cure for her, he had already spent 3 days looking for her and also utilized his spiritual power to cure her. It had been nearly 7 days that he had not slept. Shin Nianma took off his mask and left it aside. Gu Shijio looked at his slightly dark eye bags and finally understood. Don't tell me that you have not slept in these 3 days? Di Fui smiled and only said a few words. No mood to sleep, he was afraid that he would come back late, and she would have died due to her injuries. He did not know why he was especially scared that she disappeared. Although he knew clearly that her injury had been under control, he was still nervous and scared that she would be gone. Although Gu Shijio was grateful, she also felt bad. This kid was too kind to her. He really tried hard just to save her. She thought about it and took a small bottle from her storage space. She put it in his hand. Come, take this. Di Fui accepted the small bottle in his hand. He opened the bottle cap and saw that 2 purple glowing pills rolled out. He looked inside the bottle and saw that there was still a lot of it inside. There were about 40 or 50 pills there. She once gave him this medicine, but he did not know what it was at that time. He took it away and studied it for a while. He found that it was an excellent supplement for spiritual power. It was difficult to find the herbs which were used to make the potent medicine, hence, he could not identify what ingredients were added due to his inexperience. Strangely, he trusted that the pill would be effective as he felt a sense of familiarity as he sniffed it. He realized that his spiritual power had been enhanced drastically after he consumed the pill. To his surprise, the energy of the pill perfectly matched his original energy as if it was meant for him. This made him think that the pill was specially customized for him by Gu Shijio. Perhaps she really made the pill just for him? After all, her mission was to assist him in upgrading his spiritual power. The medicine must be precious, one worth 1,000 favors, and yet she gave him an entire bottle. Do you have many bottles of this? Di Fui asked as he shook the little bottle. Certainly not, that was the only bottle she had. She consumed a few throughout the years and also gave a few to her close friends and those in need. That was all she had now. However, he would not take it if she told him that it was the only bottle she had. Therefore, Gu Shijio smiled and answered, Do not worry, you need it more than me. Di Fui weighed the bottle in his palm and chuckled. I guess you need it to complete your mission more efficiently? If that is the case, I do not want it. He tossed it back to her. Gu Shijio was speechless. He was such a problematic kid. She gave it to him for the sake of her mission and also to enhance his power. It benefited both parties, but he did not understand it. Swiftly, Long Sai nicely grilled a few fishes. He then passed it to Gu Shijio. Shijio, I'm sure you're starving. Take this first. Surprisingly, a hand stretched over and took the fish before Gu Shijio reached it. Let me try. Gu Shijio did not speak a word as she thought that he deserved it since he contributed quite a lot earlier. Di Fui commented after taking a bite, It is slightly salty but overall still acceptable. There is room for improvement, General Long. Long Sai was annoyed. Casually, he replied, It sounds like your highness is an expert in this area. Why don't you grill a fish so that I can try? Di Fui did not respond to Long Sai's challenge but gave the fish to Bai Zai. Nah? See if you like it. Bai Zai took the fish over and tried it. It was not a picky eater, hence, it was very pleased with the taste. I think it is quite good. Di Fui smiled. Alright, I think General Long should responsible to grill fish for Bai Zai, not too many though, I think 20 to 30 would be just nice. Bai Zai gratefully looked at Long Sai. Thank you so much, General Long. Long Sai immediately clenched his fists. His Highness was trying to provoke him. However, the situation left him without a choice. Di Fui shifted his gaze to Long Sai as he did not respond. General Long, are you reluctant to comply? Long Sai heaved a sigh. It is my honor to grill fish for General Bai, but Shijio needs to eat more nutritious food as well. Let me make 2 for her first. Do not worry, she should not eat heavy meals and grilled fish is not suitable for her. I think it is better to boil fish soup for her. Di Fui then looked at Bai Zai. Bai Zai, could you make some fish soup? Bai Zai was good at culinary arts. Even the Divine Lord complimented his skills. Hence, stewed fish was certainly not a big deal for him. However, he quickly sent a directed audio to Di Fui. Your Highness, you should make the soup yourself if you would like to please her. I can secretly guide you. Di Fui paused for a moment and then replied by Zhe via directed audio. I am not good at it. It is too late to learn now. Di Fui was generally a fast learner but was unskilled at cooking. In contrast, his father was an expert in this area, and he always amazed his mother. However, it was a no for him. He had zero talent in culinary arts according to his father. Therefore, he had never made a meal for himself all these years since he left home. He did not want to expose his weakness. Bai Zhe looked at Di Fui with sympathy and said, Honestly, General Long makes delicious grilled fish. Divine Lord will probably compliment him if he is here. Your Highness, your father did mention before, you need to take care of Alada's stomach if you want to win her heart. Only then will she never leave you. Di Fui was upset. He silently groaned. Shut up. Go get the fish stewed now. Oh, it was rare to see His Highness get mad from being shy. Bai Zhe found it interesting to see that. His Highness was adorable and good-looking when he was young. He was also very energetic to the extent the 8 mythological beasts envied his aura. However, His Highness had a very short childhood. He grew up in 3 years. His Highness learned to be cunning and cruel but usually remained calm. He always surprised people with random decisions that often triggered and pissed people off. However, it was very difficult for others to drive him mad. Although the 8 mythological beasts were happy that they did not need to worry about him being bullied, Bai Zhe, on the other hand, thought that His Highness was too calm and mature. He should be behaving like a child. It was really good to see him being mad. Bai Zhe felt that he had achieved something great, but he knew that he should not tease him anymore. With a smile, he said, I'll get it prepared now. When he was going to do the preparation, Gu Shijio came over. General Bai, you must be tired, let me do it. Bai Zhe was surprised. Does Miss Gu often cook? Gu Shijio smiled. I think my standards are acceptable. She had already begun to prepare ingredients as she replied. Long Sai was furious. He immediately put the grilled fishes aside and walked over. Shijio, you're injured, let me do the chores. Gu Shijio shook her head. It is fine, I am not tired. Instructor Long, go get busy. Long Sai was helpless. Hence, he returned to his spot and continued to grill the fishes while Gu Shijio took out her unique pot, which she used to make stewed fish. Bai Zhe was now certain that she was an expert in cooking. To his surprise, she even brought her own seasonings. The Divine Lord also often brought his own seasoning wherever he went to prepare meals for his wife. He did not expect this lady to have the same habit. A moment later, they could all smell the fragrance that emerged from the pot. It was fresh and nice even before it was ready to eat. Bai Zhe took a glimpse at his little master and secretly guessed that her cooking attracted his master. Perhaps there would be a madam who was good at cooking in the Fusang Palace in the future? It felt good just thinking about it. Bai Zhe shifted his gaze to Gu Shijio and smiled with satisfaction. This lady was literally a perfect match for His Highness with so many different talents. It was then that he realized why His Highness worked so hard to get her. That was his first time seeing His Highness care about someone so much. Soon, a pot of milky fish soup was ready. Gu Shijio sniffed her food and exhaled with satisfaction as she had not been smelled good meat for a very long time. She missed it so much. When she opened her eyes, she saw a thin white ceramic bowl with cherry blossom designs delivered to her. The hand that delivered it was beautiful with a golden bracelet glowing in 7 colors on its wrist. As she further shifted her gaze along the purple sleeve, she found Di Fui was looking at her pitifully. Shijio, I'm hungry. Gu Shijio had a soft spot for the boy, hence, she scooped some soup and a few fish fillets for him. Here, give it a try. Long Sai quickly voiced up. Your Highness, Shijio is injured, he cursed in his heart. Do you not feel embarrassed to take her food? Di Fui ignored him and took a sip of the soup. He complimented, It is indeed amazing. Shijio, you are so good at cooking. Long Sai's efforts were in vain. Di Fui did not even want to respond to him. Gu Shijio passed a bowl of fish soup to him too. Instructor Long, you should try it too. Alas, Long Sai felt slightly better. Initially, He estimated that the soup in the pot was just enough for 2 bowls. In fact, there was still half a pot of soup that remained even though Gu Shijio had already scooped out 2 bowls of it. Perhaps the pot was a magic tool, and she had cooked quite a lot. Hence, Long Sai felt better about taking a bowl of it. However, Di Fui took away the soup when Long Sai was about to take it. Shijio, I think Instructor Long is too shy to try your cooking. Long Sai was speechless. Even an idiot could see that His Highness was trying to provoke Long Sai. Gu Shijio frowned and casually said, "Do not worry, there is plenty, everyone can have some." She then took 4 bowls out and filled them with soup. She passed one to Long Sai and Bai Zai, and another 2 were for herself and Lu Wu, who had just appeared in time. Long Sai glared at Di Fui and continued drinking the soup in his bowl. There were 2 bowls of hot and fragranced soup placed in front of Di Fui. Indeed, he was hungry. He had been rushing around for a few days without having a proper meal. How would he not feel hungry? Surprisingly, he suddenly lost his appetite. Meanwhile, Lu Wu had finished its soup in the blink of an eye. It had been ages since it had fish soup made by its master. It was fantastic. Naturally, it wanted more. Swiftly, it shifted its gaze to Di Fui, since there were 2 bowls in front of him. It drew closer. "Your Highness, do you want the soup?" Di Fui replied casually, "I have lost my appetite." Lu Wu immediately said, "Do not force yourself if you have no appetite. It is such a waste if no one has it though." Di Fui took a glimpse of it. "Do you want it?" Lu Wu nodded, "Definitely." Di Fui pushed one of the bowls to it. "Enjoy. Your Highness is so understanding." Lu Wu immediately gulped down the soup. Di Fui took a glimpse at Gu Shijio and realized that she did not notice his kind gesture as she was talking to Long Sai. He felt frustrated and poured the other bowl of his soup into Lu Wu's bowl. "Take it, it's all yours." Lu Wu did not reject it and finished everything. This meant that Di Fui only managed to take a sip of the soup from earlier. Gu Shijio seemed to catch a glimpse of it. She frowned and asked, "Fui, did you not like the soup? Why are you not drinking it?" Di Fui twitched his lips. "I do not like to share food." He got up abruptly and tossed a bottle to Gu Shijio. "That is the antidote, take it after an hour." "Let's go," he ordered Bai Zai. Gu Shijio was stunned. Bai Zai was very understanding. It knew its young master was not in a good mood. Unfortunately, it would not be able to enjoy the grilled fish. Instantly, it got up and replied, "All right." It looked at the 2 of them but was mainly looking at Gu Shijio. Softly, it said, "Miss Gu, my young master has not been eating well over the past 3 days as he was rushing to get the antidote for you." Gu Shijio felt guilty. She thought Di Fui was behaving like a child and trying to create trouble for Long Sai. Hence, she decided to ignore him when he refused to drink the soup. She did not expect him to leave so quickly. However, she regretted her actions after listening to Bai Zai. Before she could say anything, Long Sai added, "We did not know that His Highness does not have the habit of sharing food. Let me get the chef to prepare a tableful of food. Is that okay?" "It's fine," Di Fui added. He leaped onto Bai Zai's back after it had transformed into its original form. "Let's go." Bai Zai flew up into the sky and disappeared. Gu Shijio remained silent as she held the bottle in her hand. His Highness is still young. It is normal for him to throw a tantrum. He is still a kid. Shijio, do not take it too personally. Gu Shijio felt frustrated. She knew that she should not blame Long Sai, but she could not help it. He is no longer a kid. He is already a man. Could you stop treating him like a kid, Instructor Long? She was slightly blunt to the extent that Long Sai got shocked. "Shijio, are you angry? What happened?" Gu Shijio was stunned as she also found herself being unreasonable. She sighed and added, "I did not take it personally. I'm tired. I think you should rest early too." She then returned to the house. Long Sai idled as he watched her walking away. All these years, Gu Shijio was always cool and calm, and she was always good at solving problems. It was rare to see her express her emotions openly. Why did she lose control? That kid really fell in love with her. He was actually jealous. Gu Shijio sat at the edge of her bed and continued to look at the bottle she received from Di Fui. She realized that she should have treated him better when he arrived, as he had gone through a lot of trouble to retrieve the cure for her. However, she could not do so, as she knew that he had a special feeling for her. She closed her eyes, and many illusions flashed across her mind. The person she loved was Huang Tu, and what she had to do was to resurrect him. He had traded his life for hers, so how could she fall in love with someone else when she finally found a way to resurrect him? Therefore, no matter if Di Fui was a kid or not, she was destined to fail him. Hence, she should not give him hope. As a result, Gu Shijio decided to ignore him, so that he understands that she was not into him. She could not let this kid get attached to her. Given the circumstances, Gu Shijio was prepared to put aside her mission until he gets over it. She needed to wait until he could treat her as a regular friend before she could continue helping him develop. Having experienced so much in her lifetime, Gu Shijio naturally understood everything that was going on. Nonetheless, she still felt guilty about it. Although she had rejected a vast number of admirers, she never felt bad about it before. What was wrong with her this time? Was it because he was a kid? Or perhaps it was because he was the youngest among all her admirers? Gu Shijio shook her head and decided not to think about it anymore. She quickly sat down and started to meditate after consuming the antidote. The antidote was potent, and she managed to recover speedily. An hour later, she was already almost fully recovered. She lied down after doing some stretches and fell asleep unknowingly. She had a dream. It was very foggy in the dream, and she was walking in the fog alone. Apparently, it was too foggy to the extent she could not find her way out. She paused for a while to try to examine her surroundings and continued taking big steps. She was very familiar with that dream, as she often had similar dreams. She even knew what she would see in the fog. Sure enough, the mist disappeared after a short time, and she could see a man standing far away dressed in a purple robe. Although she could not tell who it was, she guessed that it should be Huang Tu. Unfortunately, she could never see his appearance clearly. She could not even identify his body size. Gu Shijio did not take a step further and decided to remain at the same spot. She knew that there was no way for her to reach him, as she had tried multiple times before. The more she chased after the man, the further he would go, and he would eventually disappear in the fog. This time, she did not want to waste her effort. Hence, she only observed him quietly. To her surprise, the man in the fog seemed to be getting closer to her, and she could see his appearance. She was shocked. The man looked like Di Fui. Her heart began to race, and finally, she took a step forward. Huang Tu. The man's back was initially facing her, and now he slowly turned around. Gu Shijio immediately held her breath. Di Fui? That was Di Fui in front of her. He pursed his lips as he looked at her with a pair of charming eyes. Baby! His voice was so magnetic. Gu Shijio suddenly felt an ache in her heart. A complicated emotion crept in, and she could sense a sour feeling rush up to her throat as if a duck egg was stuck in there. Helplessly, she felt like crying. Soon enough, she was embraced in his arms. He hugged her tightly as if he was going to stuff her into his ribs. She was suffocating and slowly lost her focus. She could no longer tell if it was a dream or reality. She hugged him tightly as if he was the one she had been looking for all these years. She then raised her chin and looked at him. You finally returned. She felt so helpless and began to sob. He sighed softly and then kissed her gently. His kiss was intense and passionate. Gu Shijio was swept away and even had a buzzing sound lingering in her head. She felt her body going numb, and she almost fell out of his embrace. While they were passionately kissing, her top was opened, and his lips slowly traveled to her sensitive spots. Her heart was racing, and subconsciously she tried to stop him. No, Shijio, we are a married couple. I really miss you. He held her hand as he looked into her eyes. Gu Zijia's heart raced even faster. She somehow thought that they were indeed a married couple. Besides that, she never rejected his request to make love to her, as she wanted him as well. However, the circumstances were rather odd. We are in a forest. Stupid, how is this place a forest? This is our bedroom. He carried her to the bed. Her light green dress was as messy as her heart rate. She took a look at her surroundings and was shocked. She was in her bedroom in the Saha world. It was all familiar furniture, the bed drapes she always had and the bed. The layout of her bedroom has never changed all these years. Mu Feng and his colleagues thought that it was too simple as there was not even a painting on the partition. Furthermore, her bed drapes were always in a single color. It did not look like the house of the Lord at all. They had wanted to renovate it for her, but she rejected. Although she did not like the layout of her bedroom, subconsciously, she did not want anyone to touch anything in the bedroom, as if she was trying to preserve something. She used to sleep in there every time she returned, hence, she was already used to the layout. That was the reason she could recognize the bedroom with just a glimpse. Nonetheless, she noticed that there were some differences in there. There were some drawings on the partition which was the scenery of Jiangnan. It was so detailed and accurate that one could feel like they could enter the painting as long as they fixed their eyes on the painting long enough. Besides that, the bed drapes were painted with lotus flowers and fishes. There was also a group of white herons flying across the sky. The bedroom, which was initially dull, had become lively after being filled with different colors. She jumped out of his arms and suddenly realized that it was supposed to be the style of this bedroom, which made her feel homey. Home. She has not felt at home for a long time. Of course, she only managed to idle for a very short time. Soon enough, she was already pressed down on the bed. The kisses were hot enough to melt her lips, and her heart rate was so familiar yet strange to her. She realized that she could not focus and began to feel numbness in her body. She could not remember anything at that moment, but subconsciously reacted to him and felt his touch as if it was something very normal between them. Certainly, she was not against it and slowly accepted his entry, his invasion, and everything about him. When he was sending her to the peak, she called his name as she trembled. Fui, Pack. Her hand hit something. She quickly opened her eyes as her body trembled. It was a white drape in front of her, a white blanket, and a shining luminous pearl. She realized the sky was bright. Gu Shijio was sweating. She did not even know the date when she opened her eyes. After a while, she quickly touched her cheek after she regained her consciousness. Her face was burning, and her heart was still racing. But she had a dirty dream. It was so real as if it just happened. She suddenly recalled so many things. She remembered that she was still a virgin. She felt soreness on her body, and her face was burning as she sat there. How would she have such a dream? Did that really happen between Huang Tu and her? But the appearance of the man in her dream was. The man looked like Shenyanma. Gu Shijio wrapped her arms around her knees and knocked her forehead hard. How could she dream about making love to that boy? That was sinful. She could never tell who the man was until today. Was Shenyanma the reincarnation of Huang Tu? Her heart started racing again. Was it true? However, even when someone is reborn, they look slightly different as they would take after their parents. How could one look exactly the same as in their previous life? She tried to recall the appearance of the master of the heavenly law in her dream, but unfortunately, she could not recall anything. Did she dream about him because she was overly concerned about his feelings? Or was he really the person in her dreams? After all, she once suspected that Shenyanma was Huang Tu's reincarnation. She pondered again, and suddenly recalled the man in her dream wore a butterfly-shaped mask. It was exactly the same as the mask Di Fui wore. But, even if his appearance was exactly the same as in his previous life, the mask should not be, right? Master! Gu Shijio was frightened by the sound that came from under her bed. After opening the bed drape, she noticed that Lu Wu was sitting on the floor with a cup of tea on its tail. "Are you all right, Master?" Gu Shijio replied, "I am fine." "Master, did you have a nightmare earlier? You sounded weird." Gu Shijio was speechless, and her face was heating up. Did she moan out loud? She coughed and changed the topic. "Why are you holding a teacup? Are you thirsty?" Lu Wu answered bashfully, "You sounded weird. It was as though you were suffering. I thought you were thirsty, so I made a cup of tea for you so that you can feel better. I did not expect you to hit the cup. I tried my best to catch it. Gu Shijio held her forehead as she remembered that she hit something when she woke up. Where did the water go? She took a look at her blanket, and Lu Wu quickly added, Master, I've dried the water, there is no stain on the blanket. Gu Shijio looked at it strangely as she felt Lu Wu was too careful today, which was so different compared to its normal behavior. It must have done something terrible. What is wrong with you? Lu Wu lowered its head and answered, I am sorry, Master. It is my fault. I finished all the soup you gave to Mr. Fui. That was the reason he was pissed off and left angrily. I am the one who made you have nightmares, and you even called out his name in the dream. Gu Zijia's heart skipped a beat. She called his name in the dream. She remembered that she called Huang too, but suddenly her body was stiff as she seemed to remember something else. She might have called Fui in the dream when they were having an intimate moment. What was she doing? How desperate was she? Master, are you all right? Your face is red. Lu Wu drew closer. Gu Shijio was annoyed and embarrassed. I'm fine, get out. Lu Wu's neck contracted as it asked, Huh? Get out. Lu Wu, you are already an adult. Lu Wu, you are already an adult. You should not sleep in the same room with me anymore. No more. Both you and the muscle should move out. Where is the muscle? She felt like she had not seen that big eater for an entire day. Lu Wu answered with a depressed tone, It has gone out hunting to get something for you. It did not want you to just eat vegetables. Instructor Long is a cheapskate. You helped him a lot before, but he could not even provide a good meal for you. Gu Shijio rubbed her brows. It is not his fault. I am not allowed to eat meat at this stage. Forget about it. Just leave. Lu Wu left with its waggy tail. It looked depressed. Gu Shijio did not worry about the muscle as it was quite strong in the continent and hardly encountered any predators. Besides that, it often went hunting and usually it would return with a bloated belly within 1 to 4 days. Since the sky was still dark, Gu Shijio decided to meditate. However, she found it difficult to calm down with all the thoughts swirling in her mind. She still could not believe that she had a dirty dream. She even could not differentiate if she made love to Huang Tu or Di Fui in the dream. Was her action considered cheating? Perhaps God was trying to remind her that she once loved Huang Tu very much and that she was not supposed to betray him? Or that Shenyan Ma was indeed Huang Tu's reincarnation? Countless ideas crept into her head, and she was confused. She wanted to dismiss all the thoughts. The only way she could find out the truth was to help him to upgrade his spiritual power to the level of a mighty immortal. By that time, there would be an answer to her questions. After all, the mystical messenger said Huang Tu would return once she completes her mission. Di Fui was leaning against the headrest of his bed, idling. He had changed into his pajamas, which was made of incredibly comfy white silk. He was obsessed with cleanliness, hence, everything must be of the best quality. Although his pajamas were comfortable, he had to change it after a nap because he had a wet dream. He had never had a wet dream before and had never felt this way before he met Gu Shijio. He began to have the desire and urge, which he never longed for before. This time, he even had a wet dream. The wet dream was strange. He was a third party initially, and he saw Gu Shijio walking in the fog and chasing after someone named Huang Tuesday. At that moment, he had a very strange feeling, but he could tell what it was exactly. He did not understand the relationship between Huang Tu and her. However, he could tell that she was desperate for this man based on her facial expression and body language. He wanted to see Huang Tu's appearance so badly, but unfortunately he only saw a blurred figure. In fact, his heart skipped a beat as he realized Huang Tu had a very similar body figure to his. He then watched them cuddling tightly, and he felt so shocked at the sight. His blood was boiling to the extent that he moved forward and separated them. To his surprise, he realized that he became Huang Tu, and his surrounding had suddenly changed into a bedroom. Di Fui felt that the layout and decoration of the bedroom looked very familiar and he was shocked to see her in his embrace. He also felt odd that he had taken over someone else's body in the dream. He was so desperate for her touch, as if a husband had finally reunited with his wife after centuries of being apart. The only thing he wanted to do when he saw her was to shower her with passionate love. It was certainly beyond Di Fui's expectation that he had his first sexual intercourse in a dream. It was a great experience. However, he had a very complicated feeling when he woke up from the dream. He cleaned himself first but could not manage to sleep anymore. How could the son of the divine couple be someone's replacement? Strangely enough, he enjoyed it. Although he was at the advantageous side as a substitute, he did not feel good when he woke up. It was not a random dream, but he planned for it. He knew a spell which could help him enter her dream. He was very upset and tired when he returned from Long Sai's residence. Hence, he decided to take a rest, but he could not sleep as his mind was distracted by Gu Shijio. He wanted to know what she was doing and what was on her mind. Thus, he entered her dream and even had a wet dream. Although he was sleepy, he could not sleep. He thought he was insane. He remembered that she had tricked him when he was young and he hated her so much. Furthermore, she just treated him as a target of her mission, and she was frank about it. However, he had fallen for her. He was surrounded by many talented girls, young and pretty, polite and capable. Unfortunately, he did not like them. He had hurt many girls before, but it was beyond his expectation to fall for Gu Shijio. Perhaps, it was indeed his karma. He thought about the dream again and wondered if the man was him in his previous life. Would that mean that he was her husband? He was shocked by the idea, but he also felt frustrated. She had a husband? He fell for a married woman? No, that was impossible. She was a virgin, right? It was impossible that she had a husband. Perhaps, it was just purely a dirty dream. But the dream was so real. It felt so real. Di Fui was busy guessing as he sat up, unable to sleep. Your Highness, are you awake? Do you want to eat something? Bai Ze's voice was heard from the outside. Di Fui heaved a sigh and got up. Fine. He then walked out of the room. He was indeed hungry since Lu Wu has finished all the soup. He was still a little pissed off when he thought about it. Darn. She knew he was upset and she knew he did not eat well for a few days, but she still allowed Lu Wu finished all the soup. She did not even try to keep him when he left. She did not even care about him. Bai Ze had prepared a tableful of good breakfast for him. There was a variety of choices such as porridge and vegetables, some meats, wine, and a bowl of milky fish soup. Di Fui stared at the fish soup and then took a glimpse at Bai Ze. Bai Ze smiled gently. Your Highness, do you like it? Di Fui took a sip. Honestly speaking, it was delicious. It was even nicer than the one Gu Shijio made. He dug in silently and made a request after he finished his breakfast. Bai Ze, teach me how to cook. The chopsticks in Bai Ze's hand fell to the ground. Di Fui looked at its ancient beast with his hand under his chin. Surprised. Bai Ze was relieved. Not at all, I'm so happy. It was bizarre that the lady who His Highness liked did not intend to further their relationship. Based on Bai Ze's experience, General Long was very interested in Miss Gu, and he was trying to quietly participate in every part of her life to make him irreplaceable. While His Highness was good at almost everything, he was certainly too young. To make matters worse, Miss Gu looked at him as if he was a fragile flower. Hence, His Highness needed to put in more effort to show his maturity. Culinary art was an excellent talent to get a girl, as the Divine Lord also got his wife by cooking delicious food for her. Bai Ze remembered that the great devil used to admire the Divine Lord every single time he prepared delightful dishes. Now, His Highness finally understood the importance of culinary arts. Bai Ze was so happy about it. However, his happiness only lasted for half a day. Bai Ze was confident that His Highness was extremely smart. Nevertheless, he must have inherited awful cooking skills from his mother. It was incredibly bad. Although they were using the same recipe, the products they made were completely different. Di Fui's dishes were so bad that it could kill a ghost. Bai Ze initially thought that there was something wrong with its sense of taste. Hence, it invited its buddy, Ting Shi, to try it. Ting Shi accidentally asked after tasting, Is this made from poop? Gosh, this is disgusting. As a result, Teng Shi was sent to clean the toilet by His Highness. His Highness threw away all the food he cooked and asked Bai Zhe with a smile, "General Bai, are you trying to tell everyone that I cannot cook?" Bai Zhe trembled and quickly explained, "How could I? Please, do not get me wrong, Your Highness." It added, "Do not worry, Your Highness, I will not tell anyone before you pick up your skills." Di Fui nodded. He trusted Bai Zhe quite well. To reward his subordinate, Di Fui decided to assign Bai Zhe to be the tester of all the dishes he made. Instead of feeling rewarded, Bai Zhe immediately felt its world was spinning in the dark as its stomach was in pain. The mussel was missing. It was 5 days later when the news was confirmed. Although the mussel was a big eater, it would not delay its return for so many days. Gu Shijio had given the mussel a directed audio spell for convenience, and the mussel kept it in its shell, but it was accidentally eaten. It was not easy to make a directed audio spell as it consumed quite a lot of spiritual power. Thus, Gu Shijio decided to stop making it after a few incidents. Consequently, she only gave one to Lu Wu since both of them was always together. However, 5 days ago was the first time they roamed around separately. This was very unexpected. Gu Shijio was very worried, especially when she recalled that Long Sai mentioned to her about the incident of celestial pets going missing. Therefore, she decided to search for the mussel by herself after 5 days. Due to her severe injuries, she needed another 2 weeks to fully recover even though she had consumed the antidote. Nonetheless, 5 days were enough for her to restore half of her spiritual power. Thus, it was sufficient for her to find her celestial pet even though she was yet to be fully recovered. There was a mountain named Yari Mountain in the 6th heaven. Yari Mountain was covered in gold and red, even the leaves of the plants were gold and red. It was spectacular when it was seen from far. Yari Mountain was covered with a lush forest and spiritual creatures. Many of the celestial fairies from the Saha world got their celestial pets from here. Typically, the most powerful spiritual creatures were often lingering deep in the forest. Hence, ordinary fairies did not manage to acquire them since they did not have the guts to explore further. The mussel once told Lu Wu that it wanted to hunt a musk deer which carried an exceptional fragrance. The musk deer was living at the outer area of the Yari Mountain, and it was not difficult for the mussel to capture it based on its capabilities. It was now in the evening, and an immense sun was hanging at the peak of the mountain. The view was amazing. Gu Shijio stopped at the outer area of Yari Mountain with Lu Wu as it landed on the lone peak. The lone peak was more than 10 miles wide and was surrounded by a cliff. There were a few huge trees on the peak, and the Huangshan pines stretched its branches out from the peak. Gu Shijio did not have the time to admire such a nice scene at the moment. Instead, it instructed Lu Wu to search for the mussel once they landed. After all, both of them had been companions for a long time now. They should know each other very well. Lu Wu could definitely smell the mussel scent. It seemed to be somewhat close to them. Wow, this is so beautiful. A girl was cheering somewhere nearby. It is indeed beautiful. This is the most beautiful sunset, mister. We even made a poem for this place some time back. Someone seconded. What poem is that, brother? Do you still remember it? Nope, I have forgotten. However, it is engraved on the rock over there. Let me show you. The sound of their footsteps was getting louder as they drew closer to the lone peak. Gu Shijio felt the voice of the young boy and girl sounded very familiar, but she could not recall where she had heard it. Nonetheless, she was interested in the conversation as she heard Mr. Fui being mentioned. She was surprised that the boy could even write poems. 5 of them gathered in front of a giant rock with a few words engraved on it, but no one noticed Gu Shijio who was standing above them. Someone read, "The sunset combines thousands of mountains in one. I am allowed to do anything I want. However, I shall leave after completing my mission without leaving any footprints or my name." Excellent. Our eldest senior is so talented. The young girl cheered. Sister Guan, Mr. Fui is no longer our senior apprentice. You should stop addressing him this way. Someone reminded her. He is always Jinua's eldest brother apprentice, even if he will never come to the Fengyun Valley again. Another lady disagreed. Someone sighed softly. Unfortunately, he will never get another teacher. He argued with all 10 of his teachers because of that evil lady. He is lost for now, but he will return. Guan Jinhua said confidently. Coincidentally, Gu Shijio heard their conversation when the 5 of them were talking. She had a rather good memory, hence, she managed to remember all their identities. They were Master Fengxing's disciples from the Fengyun Valley. There were 3 boys and 2 girls, and the one who was wearing a light purple dress was Guan Jinhua. All of them were guarding the ground when Gu Shijio broke into the Fengyun Valley alone. However, she did not fight with them but only took a few glimpses of them during the battle. That was the reason she found them familiar. Gu Shijio did not have much interest in them but was curious about their conversation. She was shocked to learn that Di Fui betrayed all his teachers because of her. Gu Shijio was not surprised that he had saved her, but she was stunned that he would go against all his clans to support her. That was equivalent to challenging the whole world. After all 10 of his teachers were the most powerful people in the world, and each of them was a great influencer. Even if their kung fu was not powerful, they could still roam around the world without being threatened due to their connections. Betrayal was a grave sin regardless of what realm. It was a shame, and one could never get rid of that dark spot. Yet, he was willing to risk everything for the evil woman. How much courage did he need to do that? Or was he just a silly kid? How much did he know about her? How could he sacrifice so much without even understanding her mission or intention? Gu Shijio had a complicated feeling and felt a little depressed. His infatuation seemed overwhelming for her. She was afraid that she could not bear with it. Guan Jinhua and the rest finally left after a series of criticism toward the evil woman. They did not notice Gu Shijio at all. Gu Shijio leaped and landed in front of the rock. She realized that his handwriting was terrific. It was out of this world. Upon careful observation, Gu Shijio found the trick to the poem after reading it twice. The last 2 phrases were modified from the phrases created by Li Bai in Jian Kuxing. The original poem should be, leaving with a flick of his sleeve after completing a task, and get his footprints and his name hidden forever. Her gaze stopped at the last 2 sentences as it had a profound impact on her. She remembered that there were many similar poems engraved in the Crystal Palace, and most of it was exactly the same as the 2 sentences. Since she lost part of her memories, she could not find the reason she was so obsessed with the 2 sentences to the extent she had to engrave it everywhere. However, there must be a reason that she had put in so much effort to try to remind herself about something. She remembered that the 2 characters Fu and Yi were extraordinarily big when she engraved it. Would that be the thing she tried to remind herself? However, Huang Tu should be the only one in her mind, right? And the memories she had lost were all related to Huang Tu. Since she knew that she had a special relationship with Huang Tu and that they were husband and wife, she always thought that the poems she engraved should be about him. However, she suddenly had a strange idea as she looked at the poems made by Di Fui. Was Fui the nickname used by Huang Tu? It was common for men with special statuses to have 2 names. Was his second name Huang Fui? Huang Fui. She repeated the words several times, but she found that Di Fui sounded better than Huang Fui. Her heart was racing. How could it be such coincidence that both of them also changed the same words of the poem? Was it fate? Perhaps, the current Di Fui might be the reincarnation of Huang Tu. Gu Zijia's heart was pounding in her chest as she quickly tapped the firmament stone and asked, "Little Tsang, is Shen Yinma the reincarnation of Huang Tu?" The firmament stone, who has been well-behaved, tried its best to conceal the truth. Heavenly secrets should not be disclosed. That was what it answered after an intense internal struggle. The firmament stone felt that its master has been interacting quite well with Shen Yinma. It was good just to keep it that way. Furthermore, the mystical messenger had warned it before that it should not disclose any information, otherwise, it would bring disaster to its master. By disclosing a heavenly secret, it would add more negative variables in its master's future. Therefore, The firmament stone zipped its mouth as if it was mute to avoid any mistakes. It was afraid that Gu Shijio would continue asking, so it tried to escape. Master, I need to continue my isolated cultivation. However, before it shut itself down, it added advice for Gu Shijio. Master, follow your heart. Gu Shijio remained silent but took a deep breath. She had quite a number of scruples recently. She wanted to wait for Huang Tu to return as she did not want to fail him. Thus, subconsciously she denied Shen Yanma and only treated him as a target of her mission. Indeed, she had a strange feeling for Shen Yanma. She paid more attention to this kid and did not feel disgusted by his ambiguous actions. It would certainly be great if he were the reincarnation of Huang Tu. Then, she would not feel guilty if she fell in love with him. But what if he was not? There would only be two outcomes. It was either she let Huang Tu down, or she hurt Shen Yanma in the end. However, that was not what she wanted. Thus, she did not want to give any hope to Shen Yanma before she could confirm. Confusion hit Gu Shijio hard over the last few days, but now she had a clearer mind. One day she would find out the truth. For now, she still had to complete her mission and just go with the flow. The only thing she could do was not to give him any hope before she found the truth. Moreover, he was still very young. It was not appropriate for him to be involved in relationship matters yet. It seems that helping him to focus on his cultivation was a better idea. Thus, Gu Shijio would have to wait until he becomes a mighty immortal before she could make the next move. Master, I can smell the muscle. It was here 4 days ago. Lu Wen ran over excitedly. Gu Shijio regained her consciousness and quickly leaped onto its back. Great. Let's find it. The muscle had a straightforward traveling route as it traveled in a straight line. Apparently, it knew exactly where to hunt the musk deer when it arrived here. Gu Shijio and Lu Wu arrived in a valley as they searched for the muscle by following traces of its scent. There was a lot of grass in the area with a fragrance similar to orchids, and that was the favorite food of musk deers. In fact, the valley was named Musk Deer Valley as it was the habitat of many musk deers. Gu Shijio took a stroll around and found the tracks of the muscle. It had probably grilled a few musk deers somewhere nearby as she saw a grill rack. Since the muscle achieved level 8 of spiritual power, it no longer consumed raw meats. It now preferred grilled meats. It had a strange habit of stacking the firewood in the shape of its shell when it needed to grill something. In fact, it had a feast there as 3 burnt spots were found at the scene. It was here 3 days ago, and apparently it was a fruitful trip. Logically, it should have returned to the general's residence with the praise. How did it go missing? Lu Wu took a stroll and found something. Master, someone had set a trap here. Gu Shijio quickly checked on it and predicted that there were 3 people here and their kung fu was equivalent to a senior immortal or above. Based on her observation, the muscle, who was enjoying a big feast, was their target. However, there was no sign of a battle. Therefore, the muscle had probably escaped as it knew that it was not strong enough to fight against them when it noticed the trap. It seemed to be extremely panicked as it only ran in a straight line into a deeper part of the forest. Gu Shijio frowned. She knew that the muscle was not easily scared when it encountered challenges. Hence, it would not run in a straight line if it was attacked solely by 3 senior immortals. In fact, it would have probably tried its best to fight and only try to escape if it was not capable of winning the battle. However, it escaped right away this time. Apparently, it knew that the enemy was much stronger than itself. Gu Shijio wondered what kind of ferocious creature the muscle had encountered. How could it not leave any scent or trace behind? Gu Shijio continued to search with Lu Wu, and they slowly entered the deeper part of the forest. It was not easy to walk in there as there were plenty of thorns, which made one feel as though they were stepping on needles. Abruptly, Gu Shijio paused as she heard someone talking. What a coincidence that she bumped into the 5 little kids again. It was Guan Jinhua and her clanmates. They were arguing about something, and it was loud enough for Gu Shijio to hear even though she was not keen to listen. Gu Shijio got 2 messages out of the conversation. The first was that Shen Nianmo's action of betraying his teachers still remained a secret within the 10 clans. Hence, most of the people did not know about it. The overlords of the 10 clans had not given up on Shen Ma as they still planned to pull him back from the devil. After all, they were all friends of the Divine Lord. They could not let the son of their friends follow the devil. Therefore, they planned many different avenues to bring Shen Ma back. Secondly, they heard that there was a strange phenomenon on Yaori Mountain recently. According to the prediction made by the Fortune Master, a celestial creature would be born on Yaori Mountain in the next few days. Hence, they were here to try their luck. Of course, they also discussed Gu Shijio, who was referred to as a devil woman during their discussion. They suspected that she was dead. And if she was not dead, they wished that she would be paralyzed by now. In fact, Gu Shijio had been honorably upgraded from devil woman to old devil woman. Without any surprise, they repeatedly mentioned that it was dishonorable enough for her to think about getting such a young boy to be her partner. Gu Shijio curved her lips upward. She did not want to be calculative with the kids. Initially, she wanted to forgive them. However, they should not have let her hear this conversation. Since she heard it, she was getting upset. Consequently, she felt like beating them up to teach them a lesson. As a result, she smiled evilly and teleported over. When the 5 of them were happily judging her, they suddenly heard a sound of blades scraping one another and saw a few sparks. They were shocked and quickly drew their swords to fight. Ouch! Oh gosh! Before the 5 of them managed to find out who was after them, their swords were shattered, and their palms were bleeding from injuries. That was not the worst thing that happened to them. A sparkling golden weapon severely damaged their clothes. They immediately retreated to avoid further attacks. Who is that? Who? Who is there? They were questioning and screaming out of fear. As they had time to catch sight of their surroundings, they realized that they did not see anyone there. Had the leaves attacked them? Those leaves were as soft and smooth as silk. Was it so powerful when it was used as a weapon? All 5 of them were frightened and subconsciously got into formation. They formed a circle with their backs facing each other's as they tried to find the culprit. Suddenly, someone chuckled above a tree. Did your teacher not tell you that you will be sent to hell with your tongue removed if you judge someone behind their back? The voice was crystal clear as it lingered in the wind. Instantly, the 5 of them went stiff as the voice was too familiar. The 5 of them lifted their heads and looked in the direction where the voice came from. They saw someone standing on a tree. It was a lady in a light green dress with long black hair. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were magical like a painting. She stood there with a golden ruler in her hand with a starry sky as her background. Beside her was a celestial beast with 9 tails that looked majestic and stunning at the same time. Although Gu Shijio did not know them well, she had left a very strong impression on them. Thus, they certainly recognized her. Guan Jinhua's expression changed instantly. You. Gu Shijio was twirling a tree branch in her hand and casually said, "What about me? Are you surprised that I am alive and happily standing in front of you?" Guan Jinhua's mouth was left ajar. Quickly she asked, "Why are you here?" Gu Shijio frowned and replied, "Little girl, I am your senior. You did not only skip the ritual of greeting me but also spoke to me informally. I really doubt that Master Fengxing has taught you well." Guan Jinhua wanted to say, "A devil woman is not worthy to be formally spoken to." However, she did not say that but only left her mouth opened. After all, her opponent was too strong and possessed a lot of unpredictable kung fu techniques. She was brave enough to break into the Fengyun Valley alone and beat all 10 of the overlords up. Hence, she was considered to be very powerful. Sadly, all 5 of their kung fu were so much lousier than their teachers. It was just like the eagle and the hen game if Gu Shijio wanted to beat them. Way too easy for her. The other 4 clanmates looked pale and remained silent even though they were very upset too. Gu Shijio continued to spin the tree branch in her hand and added, "I am agitated because you judged me behind my back. Hence, a lesson for you is unavoidable. Since you are still young, I have 2 suggestions for you. Do you care to listen?" Gu Zijia's aura was too strong to the extent the 5 of them did not even dare to run away. After looking at each other, they suddenly screamed. They finally noticed that there were numerous holes on their clothes and their arms and legs were exposed. That was extremely inappropriate. All the disciples in the Fengyun Valley prioritized their image very much, and they were very conservative in terms of attire. They were usually extremely tidy to the extent that all their buttons were in the right spots, and they never even exposed their neck. However, there was a big hole between their thighs and their dresses had turned into short skirts now. Subconsciously, Guan Jinhua tried very hard to pull her dress down to cover her fair legs. However, it was helpless as the skirt was too short. She was so embarrassed that her face turned red. "You're such a pervert. Psycho." Helplessly, she insulted Gu Shijio. Gu Shijio frowned as she heard it. Although their clothes were badly damaged, she was kind enough to leave their private spots covered. Was that still considered a pervert and psychopath? Gu Shijio continued to spin the tree branch as she smiled. "I can be crueler. Do you want to give it a try?" Guan Jinhua was speechless. What? What do you want from us?" Guan Jinhua's senior brother shouted. Gu Shijio went straight to the point. "It is very simple. It is either you slap each other 100 times and promise you will never criticize me again, or I cut your tongues off, and you can never speak a word again." There was a wickedly sharp knife in her hand, and she twirled the blade playfully between her fingers. "Don't worry. I am very experienced in slicing tongues. I can cut it off very swiftly so you will feel less pain. What do you think? Pick one way or another," she said with a note of sarcasm. The men were utterly shocked. The offers were both unacceptable. The first option was thoroughly demeaning, but the second one would cause them to be disabled. Before they could say anything, Gu Shijio continued, "I am losing patience. There are only two choices. Should you refuse to choose, I will act on the second option on the count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, she counted quickly, urging them to make their decision. The 5 men did not want to be disabled, so they had to choose the first option, even though it was shameful. Therefore, the 5 men slapped their own faces 100 times as punishment under Gu Zijia's supervision. Soon, all their faces were bruised. After the punishment, they also had to take an oath before they were allowed to leave. Lu Wu was delighted but was not entirely satisfied. "Master, why don't you just kill them?" Gu Shijio gently touched her face as she answered, "Do I look like a murderer to you?" The men were only bad-mouthing her. They did not deserve to die because of verbal abuse. Moreover, they were the disciples of Master Fengxing. Although Di Fui no longer acknowledged him as his master, their bond should not be dismissed so lightly. If she killed them, she would definitely put Di Fui into a difficult position. To avoid that, she chose to give them a lesson instead. Lu Wu was at a loss of words. It could not help but complain, "Master, I know what others don't. You are only 230 years old. Your age is considerably young in their world. Why are you considered as an old woman? You should stop making yourself sound older than you actually are. The muscle has lived for a few thousand years. Following by their rules, shouldn't it call itself as an old muscle, then?" Gu Shijio petted its head. "You are right. Even my Lu Wu knows how to tell what is right and what is wrong. I agree with you that I am still young. They are only too blind to see my beauty. How dare they refer to me as an old monstrous woman? Why would they say that I am old?" She had a supple, graceful figure with the tender face of an 18-year-old. The celestial beings could easily be more than 1,000 years old. Shin Nianmo's 10 masters, for example, were all over a few thousand years old. Even some of their disciples who had finished their apprenticeships were already more than 1,000 years old. However, even at the age of 1,000 years, these men were still generally acknowledged as youngsters or young men. She certainly did not deserve to be referred to as an old, monstrous woman at the age of merely 200 years. It was not fair to her. "Shijio, you are only about 200 years old. I would not believe it if I did not hear it from you." A voice could be heard coming from afar, behind a rock. Hesitantly, Gu Zijia's eyes searched for the source of the sound and found a small, man-like rock behind a huge boulder. "Yunyanli, I see that you are here as well." The small rock shook a little. With a glimpse of light, the rock turned instantaneously into a young man of pale-colored robes, with handsome and elegant features. He was Yun Yanli. He took big steps and approached Gu Shijio delightfully. It is a small world after all. Shijio, here we meet again. She certainly had not expected to bump into an old friend. What a coincidence! Why are you here? Gu Shijio was happy to see him as well. After a little chat, Gu Shijio found out that he was here because of the rare majestic being. Yun Yanli wanted to try his luck to capture the majestic being. He met with a group of silver wolves in the depths of the wood and was unfortunately injured, so he had to retreat to safety. He was taking his rest when he heard some footsteps. It was already too late for him to escape, so he decided to camouflage and turn himself into a rock to avoid any possible encounters with an enemy. Standing amongst other rocks, he certainly did not stand out. His kung fu was decent, but he would prefer to go unnoticed. Gu Shijio came later on but was entirely focused on the clan. She failed to notice him until he revealed himself. Yun Yanli had been there 3 days earlier than her. Hence, Gu Shijio asked if he had seen a muscle by describing the general features of her pet to him. Yun Yanli was bewildered. Is the muscle the majestic being that you mentioned before? Have you brought it along to heaven? Gu Shijio had once told him about her majestic beings when they traveled together in the past. She told him about Lu Wu and the muscle, but they were both in the mortal world at the time, so Yun Yanli had only heard about them. Gu Shijio nodded. Have you seen it? Yun Yanli answered hesitantly, I had seen one. They called it the monstrous muscle for swallowing many majestic beings. It was taken away by a few celestial beings. Gu Zijia's expression changed abruptly. Did the muscle make the same old mistake again? She had once warned it not to eat any majestic beings of level 7 and above. Most of these majestic beings had their own masters. Gu Shijio wanted to avoid making unnecessary enemies. What majestic being did it swallow? Who took the muscle away? Yun Yanli sighed. I do not know the details. When I saw them, they already had the muscle captive and were ready to put it into a magic instrument. They were the 4 great guardians of the Emperor Immortal. It was not appropriate for them to see me, so I did not reveal myself. I only heard them claiming that they had captured the killer behind the massacre of the majestic beings. Then they headed towards the direction of Yari Hill, and I have not seen them since. Gu Shijio heaved a long sigh. She was aware of the case of the missing majestic beings. Little did she know that the muscle was going to be blamed for a crime it did not commit. The case had already happened long before the muscle went for its hunt. How could the muscle be the killer? It must be wronged. Gu Shijio was enraged. She knew that the men were the 4 great guardians of the new Emperor Immortal. Most of them had achieved the level of a mighty immortal and were all well-trained and experienced warriors from countless of brutal battles. Upright and unyielding, they were the new right-hand men of the Emperor Immortal. All of them were very loyal to the Emperor Immortal, as they had been following him to the battlefield since many years ago. They were known for their cruel and merciless conduct. When the new emperor ascended the throne, some of the followers of the past emperor were clearly in defiance. Secretly, they tried to search for the descendants of the last emperor to overthrow the regime. However, the 4 great guardians discovered the scheme by sending their men into the rebel group as undercover agents. As a result, all the rebels were successfully captured and executed openly in the busy streets. On that day, the slaughter resulted in rivers of blood. A total of 300 people were beheaded. The cruelty shocked almost every member of Saha world. It was told that only dozens of people were captured at first. However, the torments that the 4 great guardians had put them through were terribly painful. In the end, they confessed and uncovered more people that were also involved. Many of these rebels were known to be very stubborn. It was unheard of for them to be compelled to confess, but none of them were able to withstand the severe suffering in the hands of the 4 great guardians. In return for their confession, their only wish was death. Since then, the 4 great guardians were also known as the 4 great Shuras. Now that the muscle had fallen into their hands, no one knew what kind of suffering they would put it through. Gu Shijio could barely keep calm at the thought of it. The muscle was like a family to Gu Shijio, even though it would often get itself into trouble due to its uncontrollable appetite. She certainly would not allow anyone to harm her family. The new Emperor Immortal's interest did not overlap with hers. She knew that he was secretly investigating her, but she was not afraid of that, for she had a clear conscience with no shame of her actions. Thus, she pretended that she did not know about it. She would let the incident pass if the muscle was fine. If the muscle was really dead as a result of the four great guardians' torment, no matter whom they belonged to, she would definitely seek for a just resolution on behalf of the muscle's death. She thought about the situation for a moment. Then she made contact with Long Sai. Instructor Long, do you know where Tai Lu and the other great guardians are? They received a secret report regarding the whereabouts of the devilish conspirator behind the massacre and went away to capture it. They have yet to return. Gu Shijio sighed. When did they leave? Have they said anything about the devil being? They left 3 days ago, after receiving information from a reliable source. However, I'm not sure about the details. Shijio, why are you asking about them? Is there anything wrong? Long Sai was concerned. They may have mistaken my muscle as the devil being. Instructor Long, is there any way that you can contact them? How is that even possible? The muscle can never be the conspirator. The missing case of the majestic beings has been ongoing for almost 2 weeks now. Yet, the muscle has only been away from the general's residence for 5 days. Yes, which is why I know that the muscle is innocent. Instructor, please contact them right away. All right. Soon, Long Sai replied. Shijio, I have failed to get in touch with them. They must be located in some forbidden place right now, so they have to shut their directed audio spell. However, I have some news from the Emperor. 2 days ago, the four great guardians reported to the Emperor that they had captured the prime criminal behind the disappearance of the majestic beings. It was a muscle. They would interrogate it to find out about other criminals before bringing it back to the 9th heaven for the Emperor to make his final decision. Gu Shijio clenched her fists in frustration. What Long Sai told her was a complete match to Yun Yanli's observation. Long Sai also knew the urgency of the matter, so he continued, Shijio, I have already told the Emperor that the muscle is not the prime criminal. I have also requested for the immediate release of the muscle once the Emperor is in touch with the four great guardians. Where are you now? I will come to you. I am now at Yaori Hill. You do not have to come here, just contact Tai Lu and the other men for me. Long Sai's current location was far away from where she was. Even with his speed, he would take at least half a day to get to her. She could not wait for him. Also, Long Sai's presence would not be of any use if the muscle's whereabouts remained unknown. Therefore, she hung up and turned to Yun Yanli instead. My prince, did you see where they went? Yun Yanli led Gu Shijio all the way to the hillside, where the muscle was captured. Lu Wu sniffed around and could pick up its scent. Also, it found a pearl that was left behind by the muscle. Master, the muscle was indeed captured right here. Lu Wu exclaimed. There was an agreement between the muscle and Lu Wu. If anything happened to the muscle, it would leave a pearl behind as a sign to communicate with Lu Wu. The pearl was grayish without any luminance. At first glance, it looked ordinary, just like a small rock. Lu Wu walked around it to observe it and reported to Gu Shijio right away. For men attacked it in a siege. Gu Shijio nodded in agreement. She, too, took notice of the traces left behind by the muscle and the men. There was a large pool of blood that belonged to the muscle. Obviously, it was injured and held captive. Every piece of evidence was a match to her speculation. She could assume that the muscle that the four great guardians had claimed must be hers. Lu Wu, trace the scents of these four men and find them. Lu Wu took a sniff of their surroundings and pointed at a direction. They went that way. Right, let's look for them. Yun Yanli offered to join them. Shijio, I shall join you. It is all right. You are still injured, so you should focus on your recovery. I can find them on my own. Gu Shijio then swiftly passed him a bottle of medicine before leaving with Lu Wu. Hesitantly, Yun Yanli slowed down. He knew that his identity must not be revealed, so it was not appropriate for him to see the four great guardians face to face. He would be in great trouble if they found out that he was still alive. Hence, he headed in a different direction, though he promised to still help in the search. Gu Shijio was burning with anxiety. She was worried about the condition of the muscle. Had it been tortured? She bore no interest in politics. She would stay away from the complications as long as the political game did not harm any of the people that she cared about. She had certainly heard about the four great guardians and the massacre, too, but she was not really concerned. In politics, there was no definite line between right and wrong. Every single one of the rulers would definitely do anything that he could to secure their throne, even if it meant driving away and exterminating the surviving members of the past royal family to ensure that there are no mishaps. They would spare no mercy in the killings, especially to those who rose in rebellion to the succession of the throne. The evil plots for the throne would often end up in brutal fights, even between a father and a son, let alone the members of no blood connection. Every change of era was built on blood and bones. Yi Tianli, the new emperor immortal, could be considered as a good emperor, but he should not be acknowledged as a good man. A really good man would never be able to become an emperor. Also, his followers would not be any better, just like the four great guardians. Their names had become a byword for cruelty. People would tremble in fear upon hearing their brutal torments. Her only hope was that they would not torture the muscle, for the sake of its identity as a majestic being. The muscle had three major concerns. First and foremost, it feared that its master would one day abandon it. Secondly, it had a fear of hunger. Lastly, it was scared of confinement. At this very moment, it was experiencing two of its three greatest fears. It had not been given anything to eat for the past 3 days, not even a drop of water. Also, it was confined in a magic bottle gourd. The magic bottle gourd was no ordinary cell. It was a magical item that could change its size to accommodate different needs. When the muscle was first confined in the bottle, it tried to expand its size to shatter the wall. To its surprise, the bottle grew along with its body size. The muscle had tried many times, but nothing worked. In desperation, it wanted to cry so badly. It had heard about the story called A Journey to the West from its master. In the story, the monsters had many magical instruments. One of them was known as the golden purple bottle gourd. It had once housed Sun Wukong in it. It thought that what she had shared was only a story, so it was beguiled with the tale of adventure. Never had it expected that it would one day be trapped and tortured in a similar situation. The bottle was like a living hell. The muscle thought that the actual hell would probably be a much better place than the bottle. For the first 2 hours, there would be raging fires, tormenting the muscle from every corner. The next 2 hours, there would be piercing cold winds, penetrating the muscle's skin. The temperature could drop abruptly to 70 or 80 degrees below zero, so cold that it could only breathe ice out of its nostrils. The following 2 hours would be filled with the smoke torment. The smoke would choke the muscle, making it difficult for the muscle to breathe. These torments were considerably bearable for the muscle. What tortured it the most was the smell of food that would fill its nostrils every 2 hours. The food that the muscle smelled was one of its favorite grilled meat. Tempted by the sweet smell, it could not help but open its shells. Unfortunately, what came before its eyes was not food, but boiling oil. It could not hide from the tempting smell the first time. The boiling oil slipped through its shell's opening and burned its flesh. Luckily, it had closed its shells quickly enough to avoid even greater disasters. Unavoidably, some parts of its soft, supple skin were burned. There were many blisters scattered on its body. Even the slightest movement came as a pain to it. The muscle had never encountered such brutal torments throughout its whole life. Every second was torture. It started to hope for death. It then heard a voice as cold as ice. Do you still refuse to confess to your crime? Confess? The muscle would never confess. It felt utterly wronged, as though living the tragedy of the innocent Dou. It only wanted to hunt for a musk deer and make a feast for its master. Fond of good food, it ended up hunting more musk deers for its own indulgence. That was when it fell into the ambush. There were 3 senior immortals who wanted to hunt the muscle. They accused it as the mastermind behind the recent massacre of the majestic beings. The muscle was not afraid to fight the senior immortals to show them its strength, but before it made any move, it was overwhelmed with fear from a foreboding threat. The muscle was sensitive enough to notice the threatening, ominous aura. It was so strong that it made its shells tremble. Instinctively, it knew that it was a sign of danger, so it abandoned the fight and quickly ran away. The three senior immortals continued to chase after it. The more the muscle tried to run, the grumpier and hungrier it felt. It could barely stay focused anymore. Hence, the muscle turned around and fought the senior immortals head-on. It took advantage of its animal disposition and swallowed them alive. The incident greatly impinged on its consciousness. It sobered up quickly and trembled in fear, knowing that it had swallowed the three senior immortals. Its master had clearly warned that it was not allowed to eat any human being. This was much worse because it swallowed three senior immortals alive. It had just got itself into big trouble. When it was still dazed by the trouble that it had just made, another three majestic beings showed up. They were there to seek revenge for their masters. They verbally abused the muscle by calling it as the scum of the community. Being greatly impetuous, it began to fight the three majestic beings and ended up swallowing them, too. While it was eating the majestic beings, the four great guardians came unexpectedly and witnessed the scene. The four great guardians had great strength, each equivalent to the spiritual power of a mighty immortal. The muscle was no match for them, so it was soon defeated and captured. When it was caught, it was kept in a glass bottle. The interior of the glass bottle was very refreshing and comfortable at first. When it finally calmed down, it realized that it had made a huge mistake. If they only wanted it to make an apology, it would not oppose the idea. Instead, the four great guardians accused it as the killer of the recent massacre of the majestic beings, claiming that it had committed all sorts of wickedness. It was blamed for the death of the 18 majestic beings, plus the three senior immortals. The muscle refused to admit to the accusations. It only confessed to what it had done. One of the great guardians then proceeded to punish the muscle. He got it out from the glass bottle and tried to inflict pain on the muscle with thunderbolts, swords, and even fire. The torment was to no avail, for the muscle had a high level of cultivation. The simple punishments did not harm it at all. In the end, one of the great guardians, who wore a red robe, offered his bottle gourd. That marked the beginning of the muscle's purgatory suffering. The inside of the bottle gourd was really strange. The muscle was not only physically tortured but also starved. It was completely famished only after a day, so hungry that it wanted to eat its own flesh. After 2 days, it started to suffer from blackouts due to the immense hunger. With unwavering spirit, it still refused to admit to the crimes that it never committed, no matter how they tried to combine the threats with punishments. The muscle hid in its shells and said nothing. They would come and interrogate it once every 2 hours. At first, the muscle exploded with rage due to the accusations. But gradually, it grew numb. The great guardians were not expecting the muscle to be so stubborn. Hesitantly, they tried to persuade it, "You are only a majestic being. There is no need for you to take the blame for others. You only have to name the man behind this vicious plot. If you do so, I will release you immediately and feed you with good food. The air is refreshing out here. I am sure that the outside is more comfortable than where you are right now." The muscle remained silent. It should take the blame for its own fault. Impulsively, it made the mistake of swallowing the three senior immortals, so the incident had nothing to do with its master. The great guardian in red, however, kept coercing the muscle into saying that it only acted on its master's instigation. "Humph! It appears that you will not shed a tear until you see the coffin. It is time for you to experience the real pain then." The muscle could tell that the man was enraged. All of a sudden, the man started casting some spells on the bottle gourd, causing the interior of the bottle to fill with burning hot steel needles. These steel needles started to aim and fall on its shell like a raging storm. The muscle's shells were capable of resisting against any weapon. Normal weapons would not cause any damage to it. However, it had been tortured for 2 days straight in the fire and cold. It grew weaker, so it barely had the strength to close its shells completely. The fine and stinging steel needles then slipped through the openings and stabbed its flesh. A brief moment later, the muscle's soft, smooth flesh was stabbed with many needles, making it look as if a hedgehog. The steel needles were able to induce more pain than normal ones. It was unbearable. The muscle started crying and howling in pain. Its long, mournful cry of pain was spread even to the outside of the bottle, like the continuous whistle of a train. The ground started to shake as a result of its loud cry. "Damn it!" one of the men cursed. He quickly shut the opening of the bottle to stop the sounds from the muscle from being heard. The bottle then became a confined space, magnifying the volume of its wailing sound and reaching a deafening crescendo. In a daze, the muscle could hear someone complaining. "My third brother, what are you doing? You have kept it in the bottle long enough for the torments to take place." It should have admitted its crimes, but it still refuses to. Perhaps our direction is wrong. Maybe it is not the evil beast that we are looking for. Maybe it was all a coincidence. My eldest brother, nothing is ever a coincidence. We have seen how it swallowed the majestic beings alive. It has also swallowed the 3 senior immortals. It is a crime that goes against all the heavenly laws. It deserves to die. All the majestic beings have been taught not to swallow humans or majestic beings of level 6 and above, but it disregarded the rules and committed the crime anyway. Obviously, it is a seasoned criminal. It is a level 9 beast, so I bet that it will not be able to act so wildly without the support of its master. Its master must be the main conspirator behind the plot. It is not like that. My master has never allowed me to eat humans. It is all my fault. The muscle continued to howl its displeasure. Its voice cracked with emotion. The pain was obviously too much for it to bear. "Who is your master?" Tai Lu took the chance to ask the muscle. "I am its master." A voice could be heard coming from the top of a tree, way above the 4 great guardians. In pain, the muscle was starting to grow dizzy, its vision blurred. Upon hearing the voice, it could not believe it at first. Then, it jumped abruptly, disregarding the steel needles on its body, and cried out loud, "Master!" Its tears started to fall like a stream of a waterfall. The 4 men looked up and saw a woman, along with a majestic being, on a tree. The beast was Lu Wu, which was swaying its 9 tails. As for the woman, she was wearing a pale green dress. Her face, however, was covered by a disturbing, ghostly mask. There was a golden ruler in her hand. There she stood, not tall, but with great aura. She was the mysterious evil woman everyone had been ranting about. The person who was trying to get together with a child. The 4 men grew anxious at the thought of her. They had seen Gu Shijio before, twice in fact. The first time was during the wedding of the Divine Lord, and the second was on Shinyanmo's birthday. They had witnessed both her appearances, so she had certainly left a strong impression on them. Clearly, they knew that they should not mess with the woman. Even the Divine Lord would stay away from her. The Emperor Immortal, too, chose not to antagonize her. "Are you the master of the muscle?" Tai Zheng, one of the great guardians, questioned her. The bottle gourd on the ground caught Gu Zijia's attention. The size of the bottle gourd was quite huge. It was basically as big as a small hill. She could hear the muscle crying hoarsely in the bottle. Apparently, it was undergoing some kind of torment. Lu Wu and the muscle were great friends. Therefore, it immediately rushed forward angrily. "What have you done to the muscle? Release it now." Lu Wu was quick, but not quick enough. Tai Lu, the 3rd great guardian, swiftly cast a spell on the bottle gourd. Almost instantaneously, the bottle shrunk in size and flew rapidly towards Tai Liu's palm. Tai Lu was generally known in Saha world for his speed, which was something he could be proud of. This time, however, someone was obviously quicker than him. Before the bottle gourd could even reach his palm, it was intercepted midair by someone else. Tai Lu was stunned. The other great guardians stood in shock as well. The one who intercepted the bottle gourd was the mysterious evil woman. At this moment, she had already retreated about 30 feet away from them. On her delicate palm, lay Tai Liu's precious bottle gourd. The muscle in the bottle seemed to have sensed something. It stopped moving all of a sudden. "Muscle, are you all right?" Gu Shijio was concerned. Soon, the muscle replied in a timid voice, "Master?" Its voice was soft, but Gu Shijio could tell that it was filled with guilt and grievance. "Release it." Gu Shijio threw a harsh look at Tai Lu. The bottle gourd was a magical item. Without specific incantation, Gu Shijio would not be able to open it. Gu Shijio had heard about these magical items, so she knew that the bottle gourd was nothing ordinary from the very first sight. It took Tai Lu some time to comprehend what had happened. He tried to keep a calm composure and responded scornfully, "It is the criminal that we have been looking for. We cannot simply release it. As its master, you have connived with it to commit such crimes. You will not get away from the punishment as well." Gu Shijio refused to argue with him anymore. "It is innocent, so let it out. If you refuse to cast the spell, I shall release it on my own. By that time, I am afraid that your bottle gourd will not be in one piece." Tai Lu hesitated but was not fully convinced. The bottle gourd could not be damaged that easily, not even fire, a sword, water, or boiling oil could scratch it the slightest bit. So far, no one had ever done any damage to the bottle. It was basically unbreakable. He was not really concerned about the bottle, even if it was in Gu Zijia's hands. "I have said it before and I am saying it again, it is a criminal, so I will not release it. Give it back to me, or I will impose severe punishments on it." Streaks of golden rays started to emerge on his fingertips. Through the light, there were all sorts of incantations floating in the air. "If I cast these incantations on the bottle, the temperature within it will rise tremendously, high enough to melt metals. Everything in the bottle will turn into piles of ash." His words were threatening to Lu Wu. Anxiously, it looked at Gu Shijio. Gu Shijio answered very coldly, "Are you going to kill it even before confirming that it is the criminal you seek? It would appear that the 4 great guardians are not so great, after all." Tai Lu dismissed her remarks swiftly. "On the count of 3, I will cast the incantations on the bottle if you refuse to give it back to me. 1, 2, 3. He spoke with force and deliberation. After the countdown, all he could hear was a loud explosion. In a glimpse, Gu Shijio was circled with intense streaks of 7-colored rays. Soon, many broken pieces started to scatter around. Tai Lu was shocked to the core. His heart ached for the broken bottle. It was his most cherished item. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Caught in a daze, none of them was able to react quickly enough. The amazing bottle gourd was shattered instantly into many broken pieces while the muscle fell right out of it. Swiftly with its tail, Lu Wu swept the muscle onto its back. A moment later, Lu Wu's tail started to tremble in pain. "Oh my! This is so painful. Muscle, since when have you got thorns?" Its tail was unfortunately pricked. Caught off guard, Lu Wu quickly put its tail right in front of its eyes to observe it better. When it saw the burning hot steel needles, it could not help but tremble in revulsion. Quickly, it wanted to take the needles off. "Don't move," Gu Shijio demanded while holding its tail in place. With a flash of 7-colored ray, the burning hot needles slowly melted away. Nonetheless, its tail was still hurt even without the thorns. The pain was unbearable. It never knew that being pricked by the thorns could be so painful. The sensation was comparable to the pain of being stung by a swarm of bees. Intuitively, it looked back to check on the muscle. Upon seeing it clearly, Lu Wu's eyes opened widely in astonishment. Was it a hedgehog or a mussel? The mussel was surrounded entirely by countless of fiery red steel needles. There were probably fewer thorns on the back of a hedgehog. When did the mussel start to grow these harmful thorns? Did it acquire another ability? Before Lu Wu could ask any question, it saw Gu Shijio approach the mussel in intense flashes of 7-colored rays, securing it in the light. A few moments later, the thorns disappeared, revealing its broken shells that were full of holes. Luckily, its shells were thick enough to prevent the needles from puncturing through. Only its outer layer was scratched. Lu Wu looked at the mussel that was still groaning in pain and was confused. "Mussel, Do you feel pain even on your shells? The muscle slowly opened its shells. A human figure, pricked with fiery red steel needles, emerged and cried loudly, "Master!" Lu Wu was utterly surprised to see the muscle, so surprised that all its tails opened up like a peacock. The sight made its flesh creep. My muscle. The little child in the shells was barely recognizable. Thorns were all over its body, even on the back of its hands, everywhere except for its face. The muscle trembled in great fear. Its eyes were red with tears slowly streaming down its face. "But, Master, I thought I would never see you again." Gu Zijia's fingers shook involuntarily at the terrifying sight. She somehow knew that the muscle would definitely suffer, but she never expected that the punishment would be so brutal. These men decided to torture it before finding out the truth. Moreover, the muscle was indeed innocent. She commented nothing. Instead, she cast some spells on the muscle. Streaks of 7-colored rays flashed by, taking away all the fine needles. They could finally see the muscle's body. Lu Wu looked furious. The muscle's little body was not only covered with many fine needles, but there were also festering wounds and blisters. The muscle was particular with its neat appearance. It liked to wear little robes, exposing its cute, tiny limbs. Anyone would definitely want to hug it as soon as they saw it. At the moment, only its face was still intact. The rest of its body was all injured. Also, the muscle used to be quite chubby. Now, its body was reduced to nothing but a skeleton. Its face was no longer big and chubby. Instead, it looked skinny and oval, like all of the water content in its body had been evaporated. The muscle was clearly in great agony, so much so that it wanted to twist about in pain. It looked at Gu Shijio with innocent eyes. Tears started to roll in its eyes, but it tried hard to hold them back. "If you are in pain, cry it out." Quickly, Gu Shijio applied some medicine on its body. "I will not laugh at you," she comforted. The muscle thus burst into loud sobs. In the past 3 days of suffering, death came across as its final wish so many times. However, it wanted to live long enough to see its master again. It did not want to bear the grudge by becoming a scapegoat. If it died, there would be no witness. Such a blind spot would put its master into trouble. Therefore, it tried its best to stay alive. Nonetheless, it was very concerned about its safety, for it was worried that the 4 men would kill it any time. Now, it finally got to see its master again. Utterly relieved, knowing that it was safe, it started to cry like a baby. Lu Wu felt much sympathy for the muscle. It wanted to caress it with its tail. However, the muscle could still feel stinging pain on its skin when in contact with Lu Wu's soft, fluffy tail. Gu Shijio had been busy taking care of the muscle ever since its release. She did not even bother to look at the 4 great guardians. For the first time, their presence had been completely ignored. If the same situation happened in a different scenario, they would have already risen in revolt. This time, they only stood gazing at Gu Shijio, who was still busy caring for the muscle. They did not even raise their voice. Tai Lu was very angry for the loss of his favorite magical item, but Gu Zijia's aura was too intimidating. The bleak aura conveyed a strong sense of desolation in the air. The 4 great guardians started to feel suffocated. They gave each other a look and started to communicate via directed audio. "My third brother, why did you torture the muscle to such a brutal extent?" Tai Zheng could not help but ask Tai Lu about the torment. The muscle's wounds came as a gruesome sight even for someone as cold-blooded as him. Tai Lu looked a little worried, but he still thought that he did the right thing. It is only a muscle. Moreover, it had committed such a deadly crime. It deserves to be punished, even if that means cooking it alive in a soup. The more he defended his action, the more he felt confident about it. Determined, he decided to take the first step. He spoke up, "You have allowed your majestic being to commit physical assault on innocent beings. It is an unforgivable crime. Also, you have destroyed my magical item, thus violating the heaven's commandment. You should behave yourself and follow us now to the Hall of Supreme Harmony." Gu Shijio continued to ignore him. She was busy applying the last drop of the medicine on the muscle's wound. "Drink this," she demanded while passing it a bottle of elixir. The muscle was thirsty, so it quickly finished up the elixir. The drink was not only thirst-quenching, but also significantly reviving. The medicine that Gu Shijio applied on the muscle could cure many different poisons and wounds. Also, she made it especially for the muscle to fit its situation. The medicine was able to heal the wounds quickly while acting as an analgesic. The muscle was no longer in pain. It rose and gave the four great guardians a harsh, angry look. There was a fire in its eyes. "Master, they kept accusing me as the prime criminal of some massacre. In fact, I only killed 3 senior immortals who abused me along with their majestic beings. Nothing else. They also kept forcing me to say that I was acting murderously under my master's commands, which was not the truth. I was only there to hunt. I refused to admit the accusations, so they tortured me." Gu Zijia's eyes darkened. Gently, she patted its shells to comfort it. "I understand the whole situation now. You may rest." The muscle thought that she was going to give it a good scolding, but she did not. Instead, she remained gentle on it. "Master, are you not mad at me?" the muscle asked while trembling in fear. Gu Shijio gave it a half-smile and said, "What is there to be mad about? Should I be mad at you because of your wild, violent temper as a result of some wicked spell? Is it about the 3 majestic beings that came to provoke you first? Muscle, I have told you not to kill any majestic beings of level 7 and above, but it does not mean that I do not allow you to kill them when you are clearly defending yourself." Astonished, the muscle finally realized that the whole scenario was rather strange when the killing spree happened. It could barely control its violent temper. After being greeted by the 3 senior immortals with a stream of abuse, it could no longer hold itself back. It could not help but wonder how Gu Shijio found out that it was poisoned and under siege. Gu Shijio gave it a tight smile. "Silly, I have checked on the signs that you left behind at the place where you encountered with the 3 senior immortals." Experienced, she could roughly get a picture of how the fight went on based solely on the signs and traces. Also, she could tell that there was an ambush. Every move that the 3 senior immortals aimed at the muscle was lethal. Every single strike was deadly. If the muscle had not swallowed them, it would be dead. Even without the wicked spell, the muscle would still have to give it all in the fight, without letting the enemies off lightly. She told the muscle not to kill the innocent, not that it was not allowed to defend itself. "Muscle, I will always return kindness tenfold. Same goes for humiliation. This is my principle of life. Have you forgotten about it?" The muscle's eyes opened widely in admiration. It repeatedly nodded in approval. "Good. You may take a rest now. I shall take over from here and get revenge on your behalf." Gu Shijio reassured the muscle. The muscle's blood burned with righteous ardor. It nodded eagerly in response. Gu Shijio finally turned to look at Tai Lu and the other 3 men. "It is your turn now, all 4 of you." Her voice was calm, but the look in her eyes was lethal. "You have to pay the price for the evil plan that you have plotted against me." All 4 of them were utterly shocked. Tai Zheng responded quickly, "Don't you try to make slanderous accusations against us. You are the one who supports the malign nature of the monstrous muscle. We were only acting under orders. How is that a plot? If you had not shown up, we would never know that you were the master of the muscle." "Acting under orders? If those were really your orders, why didn't you send it back to the 9th heaven for a proper joint hearing? Why did you come here to torture it privately without a legal trial? About that, we are here because we have other matters to attend to. We have to stay for 2 days, so we might as well interrogate the muscle here to ease the emperor's mind about the massacre." How was it an interrogation when everything was scripted, even with the involvement of brutal torments? We have to. It has killed so many innocent majestic beings, messing the order of the Saha world. It behaved so violently. There is absolutely no wrong with the use of torture. Gu Shijio gave them a threatening look. "You have been saying that it is the killer of the majestic beings. Where is the proof? We saw it fighting against 3 majestic beings with our own eyes. It even swallowed them. How did you know that it was not defending itself? How did you make sure that it was also the killer of other majestic beings? The disappearance of the majestic beings has been ongoing for almost 2 weeks now. If you think that the muscle is the criminal behind the case, you should start by investigating that particular period of time and establish its whereabouts during the crimes. If you truly cared about the case of the missing majestic beings, you would have started the investigation right away and report the findings to the Emperor Immortal. But what have you done so far? You have convicted the muscle of a crime that it has never committed merely by witnessing the kill of 3 majestic beings. You have come to such a remote place to torture it and instigate it to befoul my reputation. Have you always been carrying out your investigations so idiotically, or have you any ulterior motives? Are you trying to create slander about me? All 4 of them looked at one another in wonder. While frowning, Tai Jing tried to justify their action. We are here because of some urgent matters. We cannot simply head back to the 9th heaven due to the lack of time, so we have to keep it with us. We did not come here to torture it purposely. What are the urgent matters? Tai Jing was irritated. Why should I report our orders to you? Gu Shijiao answered coldly, I am not interested. I am only asking because I am unfortunately involved in this matter. Why can't you tell me about it? Is there something you are afraid to say? Have you failed to patch up your lies? Furiously, Tai Jing answered, There is no lie to patch up. We are here because we know that a rare majestic being will make its appearance here within 3 days. We have to wait here so that we do not miss it. While waiting, we might as well interrogate the muscle. The Emperor is very concerned about the case of the missing majestic beings. He is eager to solve the case. Instead of investigating the prime criminal that you have proclaimed the muscle to be, you chose to stay here for 3 consecutive days and wait for the rare majestic being. What if the muscle was not the criminal? What if the real criminal was still out in the world, committing the same crime again because of the delay? Aren't you afraid that the Emperor might punish you for your delay? Mouth agape and tongue-tied, all 4 of them did not know how to refute her powerful words. Gu Shijiao continued scornfully, Need I ask that you are carrying this out under someone else's order? Nonsense. We only answer to the Emperor. Who could incite us to do otherwise? This is all nonsense. Gu Shijiao took a look at him, then to the other men. She asked another question. One of you is an expert in the use of poisons, right? Couldn't you see that the muscle's violent, raging behavior was due to some wicked, poisonous spell? The 4 men were at loss of words. All eyes were on Tai Lu, for he was the only one who was knowledgeable in the use of poisons. Tai Lu responded in a rage, Nonsense. I did notice any poison. It had been 3 days, so all evidence of the poison had already disappeared. Tai Lu was not afraid of her finding it out. Gu Shijiao smiled, very sarcastically. She turned and focused on Tai Jing instead. I have some questions for you. When you saw the muscle, were its shells bright red? Were its eyes suspended in midair? Were its eyes bloodshot, densely covered with fine vessels? In its human form, were its fingers about an inch long? What Gu Shijiao described was exactly what he saw. He hesitated but did not deny it. Those are the signs of the manic poison. Once encountered, one will lose the ability to act rationally. When triggered, he or she will not be able to resist killing. The affected ones will do things that they will not normally do. The poison is rarely seen, but an expert should be able to observe it. Hence, you have disregarded the fact that the muscle was poisoned. Once again, all eyes were on Tai Lu. I have heard about the manic poison but never seen it. Moreover, there are not many muscles that have acquired the human form. How will I know that it is not its usual form for battle? Tai Lu answered carefully. Gu Shijiao responded scornfully, If you are an expert, you should at least have some doubts the moment you see the signs. You should have tested to see if the muscle was really poisoned. Did you do so? I had not thought of that. Tai Lu was obviously giving a lame excuse. You have not? As one of the great guardians of the Emperor Immortal, you have to be careful and meticulous. You should not be so reckless. After the capture, you did not perform any test on it despite knowing that something was not right. You should have investigated its whereabouts, but you did not. Instead, you put it into the stupid bottle gourd and tortured it ruthlessly. You forced it to admit that it was acting under its master's command. Obviously, you were trying to blame me. I believe that I have never done anything wrong to you, so why did you do that? It seems like you are the one being instigated. Tai Lu was at a loss for words. He could not find a valid argument at the moment. The other men were astonished too. Tai Jing coughed as he spoke. About that, I admit that it is our mistake. However, where is your evidence to prove that the muscle is not the prime criminal of the case? I can be the proof. A man interfered. It was Long Sai. He took a turn and emerged from behind the tree. The muscle, along with its master, have been staying in my residence for the past 2 weeks. The muscle only left 3 days ago. The 4 great guardians were shocked. The missing case of the majestic beings had been around for 2 weeks now. Therefore, according to Long Sai's explanation, the muscle was indeed innocent. 4 of them looked at one another helplessly. Tai Lu then continued to defend the team. The muscle is not the prime criminal of the case, but it not entirely innocent. After all, it killed 3 senior immortals and their 3 majestic beings. Before he could finish his sentence, a shadow flashed before his eyes all of a sudden. There was a hard slap on his face. He rose abruptly and attempted a swing at the shadow figure, intuitively. The shadow avoided his strike and teased him, "How dare you hit me?" Tai Liu's face was still burning with pain due to the sudden strike. His cheeks were bruised, and his nose had turned purple. "You started it first. I am only defending myself." He was enraged. Yes, the same goes to the 3 senior immortals. Wasn't the muscle allowed to defend itself when they attacked it? Gu Shijio answered him with an icy tone. Tai Lu was at a loss for words, again. Tai Jing spoke up for him. Now that we know that the muscle is not the prime suspect, it is indeed our mistake for taking it in. Hereby, I would like to apologize to you. Can we let the incident pass? Gu Shijio did not seem to accept his apology. Do you really think that an apology is enough for the torments that you have put my majestic being through? Do you think that I am a fool? What do you want, then? Gu Shijio flickered her fingers nonchalantly. Let Tai Lu undergo the same torments. Tai Liu's jaw dropped in disbelief. Tai Jing continued, "Why do you have to argue a point to death, even when I have apologized? The muscle is only a majestic being. How can you compare it with a man? In my eyes, it is even nobler than any of you. I do care for my majestic being. If it is wronged in any way, I will definitely claim justice for all the suffering that it has been through." Tai Lu was strongly annoyed by the idea. "You have already destroyed my precious bottle gourd. Your majestic being is only a little hurt. I have lost more than the muscle." Gu Zijia's eyes darkened. "Are you trying to say that I should not punish you?" "Of course. You cannot punish me. Also, we cannot simply release the muscle. Although it is not the prime criminal in the case, it has taken away the lives of 3 senior immortals. According to the law of the Saha world, when a majestic being harms a celestial being, it has to be punished with the death penalty, regardless of its motive. Its bad example will serve as a warning to others. Therefore, we need to take the muscle back to the 9th heaven for a trial, so it will get the punishment that it deserves." Tai Lu explained confidently with a powerful voice. The muscle was taken by surprise, but Gu Shijio seemed calm. She gave him a half-smile and warned him. "You will not take my words seriously if I do not show you my power." As soon as she finished her warning, she waved her sleeves to unveil what was underneath. A sudden glimpse of light flashed before their eyes. Countless of silver needles flew towards Tai Lu, like an unavoidable storm. Tai Lu, a tough man, was unfortunately turned into a silver hedgehog, with countless of silver needles penetrating into his skin all over his body. The silver needles were very fine, and the intensity of the pain was equivalent to the stinging of a bee. No one had expected Gu Shijio to strike him first. What surprised them even more was the rapidity of her movement. In the blink of an eye, Tai Lu was already covered entirely in needles. Tai Lu only managed to cover his face. The pain was unbearable, even for a man as tough as him. Gu Shijio flickered her fingers casually to show that she did not care. My majestic being is as important as a family member to me. The value of thousands of bottle gourds is still incomparable to what it means to me. Also, I am not a member of the Saha world, so I need not obey the laws here. In my eyes, you are not any superior to my majestic being. It is not its mistake to defend itself in a lethal fight. If you want to take it away, you have to go through me first. The loss of the bottle gourd will be one of the prices that you have to pay. I will not torture you with the pain of extreme temperatures. You only have to suffer the pain of the needles. The other men were shocked to the core. They knew that the mysterious ghost face possessed powerful kung fu, but her actual strength was far more powerful than what they had expected. The speed of her movement, the accuracy of her spell, the intensity of her spiritual power, and the oddity of her kung fu was enough to make her a qualified match for the Divine Lord and his wife. Surely, she was even more powerful than the Emperor Immortal. The four of them needed to plan a surprise attack on Gu Shijio. They were still hoping to take the muscle back for its trial. However, they dared not attack her anymore after witnessing her strength and power. The wise men decided not to fight when the odds were obviously against them. In the end, they gave her some irrelevant small talk before leaving with Tai Lu, who was now like a hedgehog look-alike. Tranquility finally returned to the woods. Long Sai heaved a sigh of relief. He complimented Gu Shijio for her strength. Shijio, you are the best. The four men are usually very arrogant and unapproachable by many. They abuse the power that is authorized by the Emperor Immortal and simply arrest or kill anyone as they please. Except for the Emperor Immortal, they will not obey anyone else. Most of the celestial beings are afraid of them, but dare not say a word about their overbearing and oppressive acts. Gu Shijio only responded with a smile. On a rock she stood. Suddenly, her body trembled, and she fell to the ground. Long Sai was surprised. He quickly gave her a hand to help her stand. Shijio, what happened to you? When he was holding her up, he realized that her entire back was wet. Did she really sweat so much? Chapter 2050, Revenge, 4. Gu Shijio was not used to being in physical contact with anyone, so she wanted to push him away. However, Long Sai grabbed her hand to stop her from resisting, only to realize that her palm was all sweaty as well. Quickly, he took off her mask to examine her complexion. Her face was as pale and white. Sweat broke out all over her forehead. Shijio! He called out her name desperately. He held her wrist steadily in his grasp to read her pulse. It was no longer a steady beat. Instead, her pulse was going very fast and chaotic. It was a sign of the recurrence of her past injury. What happened to you? Long Sai was in a complete shock. Gu Shijio closed her eyes briefly to catch her breath. She refused the pill that was offered by Long Sai and took her own pill from her storage bag instead. Then she sat on the ground and started meditating. Long Sai dared not interrupt her. He only stood by her side to keep her safe. A few moments later, Gu Shijio opened her eyes. She finally stopped sweating, but her complexion was not any better. Pale and weak, she heaved a deep sigh. I have overused my spiritual power, she explained. She was severely weakened and basically narrowly escaped death. All she really needed was a quiet rest now. However, she was anxious about the muscle. She had to come searching for it, even in her weak condition. Her kung fu was only partially recovered. Under the current circumstance, she really should not have used her spiritual power to fight them off. Nevertheless, she had to show them her real power to intimidate them, sparing no effort in her ultimate strikes. The first time, she had to use a significant amount of power to destroy the bottle gourd. The second time, she had to send out the silver needles. The consequence of the overuse of spiritual power was the recurrence of her injury. Why did you have to give your all? Long Sai was angry. Gu Shijio closed her eyes to avoid being distracted. If I do not use my ultimate moves, I will not be able to save the muscle's life. The time when she used her spiritual power to shatter the bottle gourd, she could already feel the recurrence of her injury. She was in acute pain, but she tried to look her best so that the 4 great guardians would not notice her weakness. Otherwise, they would not let her go alive. Instructor Long, there is something fishy behind this matter. Someone is trying to make me the scapegoat. The muscle has unfortunately become a victim of their plot. There must be something much more complicated going on about the 4 great guardians. I must keep the muscle out of their hands, so the fight is a risk that I had to take. As soon as she stopped, a man could be heard laughing scornfully. You are like a spent arrow, which is no longer a threat to our position. How can we fall for your trick? Soon, 3 great guardians emerged not too far away from them. Among them were the eldest guardian, Tai Jing, the second guardian, Tai Liang, and the 4th guardian, Tai Shu. The 3rd guardian, Tai Lu, was nowhere to be seen. Long Sai was surprised to see them again. Their spiritual power was equivalent to the strength of a mighty immortal. Hence, they were almost unbeatable in the Saha world. He was no match to their power at all. As for Gu Shijio, she could barely even stand. Why are you here again? Long Sai stood up and hid Gu Shijio behind him. Tai Jing looked at him sternly. The muscle has committed a brutal crime, so we have to bring it back to the Emperor Immortal. As for the woman, she has injured Tai Lu. A proper explanation is required, so we have to take her along with us. With his fists clenched, Long Sai was obviously irritated. What if I disagree? Tai Jing responded callously, Long Sai, are you going to rebel against us? Long Sai's face turned pale at the intimidation. I dare not. I am not rebelling by standing up for her. She is a friend of mine. Tai Jing acknowledged him with a sneer. So what if she is your friend? Are you going to disregard the law because of your friendship? She is not guilty of any crime, Long Sai explained hesitantly. Guilty or not, it is up to the Emperor Immortal to decide, not you. Don't worry. We are only taking her back for the Emperor for him to make a decision. Tai Jing tried to bait him. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.